Welcome to the iNetrepreneur Radio Show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hey, hello everyone. Oh my gosh, we're here. And those who went to the Art of Connection book signing yesterday know what I mean. It was a book signing for the ages. We had nearly 60 people all coming together, signing each other's books, giving high fives, shaking hands, kissing babies. No, maybe not kissing babies, but definitely giving big hugs. And it was just nice to see the people that you've seen on Zoom for a long time, or people that you've read their page and it touched you. We were able to see each other and just, be able to just have that feeling of connection. And that's what this book series is all about. It's about connecting people that are heart-centered, like-minded, and purpose-driven, who want to utilize their gifts for the world. I'm really excited that our journal book, in addition to our 365 Days of Abundance quotes book, did go bestseller. It went bestseller in the United States. And so in addition to having an international best-selling book, 365 Days of Abundance quotes, we also have another bestseller, 365 Days of Abundance journaling. And so that means all of our authors who are in the quote book can also claim two for one. It's like the Double Mint twins. You get two for the price of one, maybe not quite, but you get two books to claim on your Amazon profile, and you get two more ways to claim that you are an international best-selling author between the journal and the quote book. And we're really excited about that. And mind you, the quote book is a 2.5-pound book. So when you receive it in the mail, please don't think it's a doorstop. It actually is a book. I also want to remind everyone they can go to 365 Days of Journaling on Amazon. Just take a picture of that. That'll get you to the book. If you want to go to the regular book on Amazon and purchase that book, it's still on special. It's not $35 right now. It's still $17.99. You can go to www.mybook.to/Art of Connection 5, the number 5. Again, that's mybook.to/Art of Connection 5, and you can get that outstanding 2.1-pound book called The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Abundance quotes. And so also I want to remind you, go to Facebook and like us there at facebook.com, iNetrepreneur Radio, or go to YouTube at youtube.com/iNetrepreneur Radio. We love your likes. Please, we love your likes. And also, we also produce magazines in our publishing company. We have the iNetrepreneur Network magazine. And we also have the Contemporary magazine. And we have a brand new magazine coming out called Infinite Core. And Infinite Core is for heart-centered women and men alike who have gifts that they want to share with the world. So really excited about a brand new magazine. So we have 3 magazines. Oh my gosh, it's getting to be too many. No, absolutely not. Make more, right? Like Doritos will always make more. Lastly, if you want to come to one of our events, we put on over 1,000 meetings and events each year. That's 1,000 meetings and events. You can go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. You can see our summits. You can see where our radio show comes on. You can see some of our classes and events. Such a great space to see some of our online and in-person offerings. And so, oh my goodness. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on our first guest, Mr. John. How are you today?
Robert, I'm doing great. It has been nice and warm here in Pennsylvania. So the sun is out. It's a little bit on the warm side, and that means things are popping up out of the ground. So if I'm a little sniffly today, it's not just because I'm emotional, a little bit, but but I am like dealing with the new pollen here. So
John, I know you too well. You're one of the more emotional guys that I know. And, as opposed to not liking that, it's something that I really love about you. And
my wife does say that I'm in touch with my feminine side. So
you are. And look at what guy wears such a bold statement, coming onto our radio show? What is that shirt? Show me that shirt. Show me your shirt.
All right. So it's Santa Claus on the beach.
Wait, what?
Santa Claus on the beach.
Oh my goodness. He got away finally, didn't he? Oh my goodness.
It's vacation time.
Well, everyone, I'm with John Verrico. He's the founder of Share Your Fire. You can contact him at john@johnverrico.com. Again, at john@johnverrico.com, or call him at 240-257-6373. Again, 240-257. Dare I say it, John? 6373. And what does that spell? It spells nerd. So let your nerd be heard with John Verrico.
Hey, we have to embrace our nerdness.
Absolutely. John, we talk about a lot of different things. We've talked about your journalism career. We've talked about your military background. We talk about some of the training that you've had in, that you've had, and who you've trained and what type of curriculum you have. But we really haven't talked about, your company name. And one of the things sometimes I like to do is I like to go back to the genesis of all companies. Everyone here that comes here today, we all have names, our company names. And I feel like sometimes, when people get interviewed, one of the biggest misses that we don't key on is like, how did your name start? Because I'm sure there was some type of genesis behind it, for you to come up with the name Share Your Fire. Could you tell us just a little bit about how you came up with your company name?
Yeah, absolutely. Robert, as you might know, I spent 42 years doing public affairs and in the military and in the government, and helping people to tell their story. Get the engineers and the scientists and the park rangers and all of those folks to get out there, talk to the press, talk to the public, and share their passion. And I always looked at, the things that motivate us being that internal fire that keeps us going.
Yeah, but
and so Share Your Fire is exactly that, helping people to share what motivates them.
Well, and for a lot of us, and it's so funny because for many years I'd always hear about, this passion and sharing your fire and being your best self and all these things. And it just seemed like a bunch of chatter to me, and maybe it was, the background I came in from. I was a programmer, I was a Marine, I a cabinet maker, all these different things. And so when I thought that, it just seemed like a lot of chatter. It just seemed like something else that was going to be sold to me. And, it's just someone wanted to kind of take my money through a book or a course or, some online group thing, but as I started getting older and older, I started to see, how powerful the mind is, and that we all indeed do, even as recovering programmers, have a little passion in us, and so when you take on some of those clients who may not have tapped into their source called passion, how do you start mining that out of them?
A lot of it just it comes really from conversation, right? Getting to know them. The mistake I think a lot of people do is when they meet somebody, they're sizing them up for, how they can work together and such like that. I never have that in mind. When I meet somebody, I want to know about them. And then there'll be something about them that just triggers. And I'll notice, the longer a conversation we have, all of a sudden you'll see their eyes light up when they hit a certain topic. Mm-hmm. And that's when I know we've struck, that match, so to speak, and I've always said that the things that motivate us, like I said earlier, it is a fire that burns inside of us. And when we share that, other people can sense it. And when the people around us are also getting fired up, then we can combine our light. And that's what makes all the difference.
Agree with that.
I started off, focusing on the workplace,
but also in motivated. Combining the light, one of the things that I'm kind of interested in is, intuition. One of the things that I've noticed about you, and I've seen you talk on different radio shows, and I've seen you in the interviewing seat. And one of the things that I think that you really have is you have a gift of intuition. You know how to ask the right questions at the right time and bring things out of people. And, a lot of times we always think women have the intuition and men don't. But I really think that everyone has intuition. You just happen to be a man who's happened to mine that intuition out and utilize it to your best of ability. Do you work on your intuition, John, or do you think it's just something that you're aware of and you have the ability to use it?
I think it's a combination of both of those things, actually. It is something that I didn't realize I had it first. And then people like you pointed it out and said, hey, that you keyed in on that. And so then I realized that I have to do more of the listening and less of the talking. And you know me, I belong to that support group for people who talk too much, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But I've learned, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's for a reason, right? We should listen more. And so I start paying more attention to what people are saying to me instead of waiting my turn to say the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I know about you is, we talk about passion, but another thing that I like to talk about, in addition to abundance, is resilience. One of the things I found in life, the most abundant people many times are also the most resilient people. And you've had to become pretty resilient yourself in the last year and a half or so. You stepped away from the lawn security blank of a military career to kind of finding like, oh my goodness, I have to find my own food dishes to survive. So, tell us a little bit about the resilience that you've discovered in yourself this last year and a half.
Stepping away from the guaranteed paycheck is probably one of the most terrifying things we can do. I did between military and government, it was 42 years. And, I've been doing this share your fire stuff on the side for about 25 of those years. And I always said, this is where I want to spend my time. This is how I want to devote my energy, is to helping other people in this way. And I was just terrified to do it without that security blanket of that paycheck. Making that step was huge. But I finally decided it was time to do that, because there were so many stories out there that need to be told, so many torches that need to be lit. And I decided to try to do it. And so, you go into it and you're a little nervous. And so you kind of buckle down the wallet and all that stuff. And you say, okay, we're not going to spend for a while and figure out if this thing is going to work. But really what helped in a lot of ways was interacting with other people through the networks like Network Together and the iNetrepreneur Network. And I'm not saying that, just to blow smoke. It's absolutely true. The more people we interact with and grow into our circle, the better opportunities we have. Now, did I get business from everybody I interacted with? No. Did I make some really great friends? Yes. Did I make some even better, more opportunities for connections and potential business? Absolutely. Did I meet some collaborators? Did I get my name in, multiple international bestsellers? Yes. All of those things helped in my resiliency from going from that security of the paycheck to getting out there and being more or being less risk averse.
Wait, but here's something else that I think that I appreciate about you is, so much of the time we always show up in our strength. And what I love about you is you also show up in your vulnerability and you allow others to see that. And it's like, what I found is when people do that, other people they'll come to your aid, and they'll come to your help and they'll meet you where you're at. And you do it in a tremendous job, going into the space of vulnerability, allowing other people to come in, allowing other people to help. And I think that is part of your secret sauce of finding success so fast, because quite frankly, you had to start from scratch. Once you left, you were at zero. And now I look at you as like, you're one of my best friends and you're like my hero. So, but you did that, John. And I really think that you really lead the way of what I like to look at as like the modern man, the men that I love to see in my life who are not afraid to have that strength, and they should have that strength, but they're also not afraid to be that person who has vulnerability and says, sometimes I too need help. And I love that about you. Is that something that you also cultivated, or did you have to learn that over time?
I really had to learn that aspect of it. My childhood, I was a small kid and I was picked on by bullies. You don't show vulnerability to bullies.
Mhm.
And so as I got older and wiser and all of that, I realized that the people that I gravitated to, the people that I gave my trust to, were people who showed me their authenticity and their vulnerability. And so I just chose to say, all right, I'm going to take the chance. And I realized that we make better connections. And you've heard me say this before, I think. People do business with people, not with businesses. I want people to recognize me as a fellow human being, which means I do have weaknesses and vulnerabilities. I have some expertise to share, and I have some human qualities as well. And I don't want people to interact with me just because they think I'm this god of knowledge in some particular category. I'm not a guru sitting on the top of a mountain. I have some wisdom that I've gained from my experiences over the years, and I'm happy to share them in any way that can help other people. But I'm still an absolute human being. But one thing, if I can just add, I've learned also to laugh at myself.
Yeah.
Because if we laugh at ourselves, we take away the power of others to hurt us by laughing at us.
I love that. Last question. And I've been wanting to ask this question. If you were given the choice and you were to step outside yourself and you wanted to look at yourself and you would just go like, I see this John Verrico guy, and if I was just to give him one piece of advice or encouragement, what would that piece of advice or encouragement that you would give yourself from looking at you from the outside?
Besides needing to slim down, I would say, to keep on going and take more risk. Right? Just not to let things get in the way of what we know is right, and to just keep moving forward.
Well, and that's what I think I love about this community is, you can travel alone, and many times you can travel fast alone, but you always travel farthest, and furthest when you do it with others.
Yes.
And one of the things I just want to thank you again is your undying support of being in the Art of Connection book. You're on the cover with me, John, and let me tell you,
a glorious place to be, Robert. A
glorious place to be. Absolutely, right? If you're going to be somewhere, be on the cover, right? But
especially with Robert W. Jones.
I don't know about that, but the thing is you're there, and you earned being there, and that's what I love that you did, John, and I appreciate you so much. Everyone, I have been with John Verrico. He's the founder of Share Your Fire. You can contact him at john@johnverrico.com or call him at 240-257-6373. Also known as the nerd that needs to be heard. Again, we're with John Verrico, the founder of Share Your Fire. You can contact him at john@johnverrico.com or call again 240-257-6373. John, thank you so much for being on the show. And I'll see you a little bit later when we do our wrap up.
Always great. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you so much, John. And like always, we'll be doing this again soon, won't we?
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Definitely always on fire with Share Your Fire, Mr. John Verrico. Thank you so much, John. Next guest I have is Ericka Avila Brian. How are you today?
Hello. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. And I feel ignited now after John shared his, My flame's going.
Oh, I know it. Isn't that great? Oh my goodness. Well,
Yes.
everyone, I'm with Ericka Brian. She is founder of Return to Your Self Wellness. I don't know why I stumbled on that. That's pretty cool. I'm with Ericka Brian, founder of Return to Your Self Wellness. Contact her at Ericka@returnyourself.org or call her at 626-376-8429. Again, 626-376-8429. And people always ask, why do I repeat those things on and on throughout the show? It's because there's these little transcribers and these bots. And I'm like, if I don't say that enough times for Ericka, people might fall in love with her, but they're not going to be able to contact her if they only see the if they don't get the transcript. So Ericka, thank you so much for being on the show. And so you got to see a little bit about, the interaction between, John and myself. And this is the first time you've been on the show. And the first question I always like to ask people who just come onto the show is just, tell me a little bit about, like your background, like where you were born and where you grew up, maybe what family life was like, and then maybe one claim to fame or just one accomplishment that just, you geek all over about.
Okay. I was born in LA and moved really all over the LA area, from Fontana to Riverside, Covina, Santa Ana, Pasadena. So really all around that area. My parents, my mom was born in Mexico. My dad was born in Texas. I'm almost first generation here. Parents didn't graduate high school, but luckily I did, barely, holding on to a thread there. One thing I like to share is, like, my English teacher told me, you need to either make the change or you're going to become another statistic. And that always stayed with me. School wasn't my strength. Naturally, you grow up in the environment that you're in, and you kind of just repeat that. And so I knew I needed to work a little harder. So from there, I really wanted to go to college, but no university would accept me at the grades that I had. So I started community college level and really fought my way to get into ASU. Finally did. Took about 6 years, but it happened. And from there, I graduated, and my background's in health science. I love studying science. I love studying psychology and just understanding the human mind and our behaviors and the science behind it all. Now I'm going to graduate with my master's with an MBA this May. So I'm really excited. With that, I also went to Trowbridge University, studied there under Deepak and many other teachers, where I was taught yoga, philosophy, Ayurvedic medicine, meditation, which has really complemented a lot of what I do. My background's also in physical therapy. I went to physical therapy tech school and studied that as well. So I've been in healthcare and inpatient, outpatient, psych hospitals all over the place for about 16, 17 years now.
It's really interesting to me because, although early on you may not have had that just really insatiable desire to become academic, in certain ways you've developed that love over time. Was there a person, or was there a moment, or was there just a download from above that started this journey? Because not everyone takes that pivot and goes into the direction in the radical way that you have.
Yeah, well, my grandfather, I would say, planted a seed within me. He always said that in life there's going to be people that take from you. Mm-hmm. But there's a few things that they cannot take from you. And that's your education, that's your passion, and your language. And so part of that always stayed with me. And I felt responsible to do something with information. It would, in a way, gnaw at me. If I ever became stagnant or complacent in my education or my learning, I felt that was my fire to continue to push beyond things. And we know we don't get to this point in life without feeling the burn of life. There are many challenges that were thrown my way from the very beginning. And I feel like the more you try to fight, the harder those challenges come. But those little seeds of inspiration that we too can plant into each other can really help prosper and grow the garden of all the potential that we have. for the things that we plan to do in this journey.
It's really interesting to me because, I worked with this gentleman, and he talked about head trash and how much our mind, it's like anything else. Our thoughts take up space, and those thoughts, they take up space in our mind. And the more space that we leave for something, the larger it gets, and the more it takes up, and it starts to, weed out maybe even the great things. We start becoming, the time that we, what we pursue in our time, So if I'm thinking great thoughts, we tend to become great. If I think thoughts that delimit ourselves, we become, we delimit ourselves. And what I love is, in a way, what you're telling me is, your father, he never gave up. He gave you thoughts, and he planted these thoughts in your head, right? And
My grandfather.
Your grandfather, sorry, your grandfather, planted all these thoughts in your head. And instead of having the thoughts that limited you, you had thoughts that liberated you. And I think that's, maybe true. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And those other thoughts were there, trust me, they were there limiting. And especially every time I failed, like with English 101, that's usually the standard English class you go into, right?
Mm-hmm.
I failed that twice. I had to take 2 classes below that in order for me to even be able to take English 101. My literacy was so low. And I was reminded many times in different ways that I shouldn't be there, that wasn't my environment. My environment was just to be recycled back to the cities that, I lived in, and maybe try to get a job, any type of job, nothing that really helped or developed my skills that I wanted to develop for myself. Another thing are you familiar with the 4 soul questions?
I haven't heard the 4 soul questions. I do not.
So linking with my grandfather, I call him Tata, what my Tata had shared with me, and then what Deepak Chopra shared with me, there's 4 soul questions that you ask yourself. Who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? And what am I grateful for? When you take the journey in asking yourself those 4 questions, you really learn to tap into the space of possibility. So now I'm not those stories anymore. I'm not the story of a first generation. I'm not the story of somebody who grew up in a very poor area or who had low literacy. I was living out in this field of pure potentiality.
And in many ways, it sounds like you're defining your own narrative.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you tap into that, it changes things. It changes the way you look at every obstacle and every opportunity.
But a part of that is acceptance. You need to accept that what they're saying is true. So much of the time, many people are the information's there right in front of them, but they're choosing to look away, or they're choosing to freeze, or they're choosing to ignore in their own way. But you had something that's not everyone has. You had an acceptance that these were universal values that you could apply. What made you feel that those values were something that you could apply and actually execute?
The pain of what I was living in was much more, kind of propelled me to see acceptance, because I'm very stubborn, or was very stubborn. So I had to really feel the burn of the barrel, like the bottom of life, to realize, like, wow, I don't want my kids to go through this level of pain, or to have to feel like there's not very much opportunity here in life. And so I knew I had to make the change, because I wanted my kids to look at life and see it as like this blank slate, and that they were able to color it however they wish they wanted, maybe outside of the lines, maybe create a completely different image, or erase it when they can. I wanted them to be in control. And a lot of my life, I felt like I wasn't in control, until I started to study that space of possibility and realize, wow, there is so much available to us if we invite ourselves to soften and see what is unfolding before us.
And it's really interesting, because I've said for the longest time in my life, there's really 3 things that make up a person. I say your nature, right? What you come with, your nurture, and the noodle. that you have. So nature, nurture, and the noodle. And I always, and I like to say, no matter what you get in nature and no matter what you get in nurture, you can always trump both by what you have in your noodle. And if you always exercise, your heart mind, that construct there, you can always achieve greater things than what nature and nurture provides. Would you agree with that as well?
I do. And then I feel like there's a deeper level. There's a soul level. And in that soul level, because I feel like the mind is recycled thoughts and recycled experiences from what we have come to learn. But then there's a deeper layer because we can then witness what the mind is doing, right? We can organize the thoughts and feelings that we see and they come. But in that deeper layer, we connect with source, God, energy, whatever you wish to connect with. But it reminds us that you're more than all these things. You are the space of possibility, the space of creation and creator. And you are by far the example of that because you just love to create and making all these wonderful things. Like you activate, you work in that space. And so, that's very inspiring for a lot of people to see. And I feel like now my legacy, we've been able to access that space of soul, that space of possibility, and that space of healing.
Well, and I think that's so much too, because in my reality, I'm always like, human beings and people in our source, because it's God, universe, spirit, source. And I look at this in these so many things, and it's like, so much of the time, we always love to think that we can just separate ourselves from everything. And quite frankly, we're inseparable from everything, and we can't separate from anything because we are that of which everything that exists. And it's just like, we attempt to fool ourselves and we attempt to take ourselves out of it. And quite frankly, what we're really doing is taking ourselves away from the very energies that sustains us. And so I'm like, why do that? And I even say the same thing with entrepreneurs. I work with entrepreneurs, everywhere, Eric. And I wanted to create a different entrepreneurial community. I didn't want it to be one where just people show up and, they always show the best of themselves and they're so strong and, their widget works better than the other widget and their software, scratches your back better than the other one that scratches their back. I wanted to have a place where, we're just human beings, and we have vulnerabilities, we have frailties, we have needs. And the only way that we can all move forward together collectively is, by providing for each other. In my gifts and my talents, I might have something that you may not, and vice versa. And I call that the salt and sugar principle. Tell me, how do you feel about, people and how we all connect? Do you see it the same way or maybe a little differently?
Absolutely. There's like this dynamic exchange. And I feel like that is a heavenly, principle that we have been gifted to provide each other. Whether I'm giving or receiving, this is an exchange that when we can recognize it, we can naturally keep that flow. And really what it is love and abundance, right? It's just sharing that. And if we look at each other in that space, like you said, where I'm here to help, how can I serve? It's a beautiful, beautiful way to approach life, and we grow successfully together.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. And and that's what's so interesting to me, about love, and when I look at business owners and, and so it's like, well, many times they feel like, hey, I have no room for love. And it's like, well, what do you mean you have no room for love? My first question then is, do you love what you do?
Mm-hmm.
And then if not, then why do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't love what you do, that means you're diminishing every other level of love in your life, because love isn't boxed. Love is fluid and it goes through every, dimension that creates the individual. And I think it's so important to, find love in your life, and find love in your business, and find love in your spirituality, and find love in your emotion. And, if you're truly finding love in all those areas, success becomes so much easier. And I say this too, Eric, I say far too many business owners, work on what they do, and far too few work on who they are. And, my goal is like, how can you and I and John Verrico and Tara, who had to go, but, I want to talk to her about that, is, for me, my mission, like through the art of connection and everything else, is helping entrepreneurs not just become better at what they do, but truly become better at who they are. And if
Yeah.
they do that, everything else becomes beautiful, doesn't it?
Yes, and you're like segueing to what I do. That's why it's called return to yourself wellness, because we put so much emphasis on how do I find love in what I work and what I do and relationships and my work environments and my community. Eventually, if you lead from outside in and that shifts away, or we lose that, then we lose the identity of self because we've attached ourselves to those external things. But when you start into that space of returning to yourself, and like you said, embodying, developing those attributes that you wish to share, there's something that changes. You're ignited. There's something now you're excited to share who you are and what you do, and you want people to activate that within them. So you've developed the pathway to it because you're experiencing it. So naturally it's easier for you to share that experience with other people. And for me, that was a huge shift in my life, in the way I approached my work environments, my relationships, and all the things that I do. Is a lot of it had to come from returning to myself and saying, well, who do I want to be? In order for me to achieve these hard things, who do I have to be that? And then sometimes I feel like when you're in those hard spaces and you're like, well, I've never been given an example of how to navigate this. Then I pray and I say, God, who do you want me to be in this experience? And boom, he'll send you people, he'll send you scripture, he'll send you messages, and things will start to align. But we need to, like you said, come into the space of acceptance to be able to receive, ask those hard questions, and connect with the people that God has aligned along your journey.
Well, in the other thing is just having that courage. To me, sometimes we hear courage, but courage is like a muscle too. You can develop courage, and as that courage grows, so do you, right?
Yes. It's true. Just think about little kids when they're playing in a park. They don't think twice. They have a lot of the courage. They'll run up to anybody and say, hey, do you want to play? What if we looked at life that way? We're like, hey, do you want to do business together? Hey, do you want to write a book? Hey, do you want to, develop this skill set with that kind of courage and enthusiasm and creativity and fun? That is what I'm trying to access, or inviting people to access within them.
Yeah. And I say so many times of entrepreneurs, and I love that you're saying it. And I'm always like, one of the most powerful words, but it's like the output of courage, is the power of the ask. Just ask. Ask. Oh, you want to get on a radio show? Just ask. You want to get on the stage? Just ask. You want a second ice cream? Just ask. They may give it to you. They may say, yeah, we got too much ice cream. We got to get rid of it. Here, Ericka, take some more ice cream.
Yeah.
You never know. And that's why I always feel like, when it comes to coaching, and when it comes to growing, and when it comes to community, it doesn't just take, all different styles of, business categories. It also takes, it takes, community categories, and part of a healthy community it's not just the physicalness and the mental healthness. I also, feel like, and you said it earlier, and I believe this well, there's also the spiritualness. And if it and I look at it like this, I always look at it this way. I always say it's the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, and then the financial. And and if you're hurting financially, it hurts the other four. If you're hurting spiritually, it hurts the other four. And so, is there a balance to all these? Absolutely. And I think with each and every one of us, if we're balancing, our financial or our currency, because I don't really like to say money. I always like to say our currency is our energy. And, where our energy goes, where we put that energy is where we will be supplied with our currency. And I think that that's so important. And, and all of those things work. And that's why, for me, it does take a tribe. It takes a tribe of many different people to create a holistic ecosystem. And every time you're in a holistic ecosystem, you can increase the atmosphere for everyone to share. And, and I see you doing that. I read through some of the things in your background and, what you have created for yourself, and you've manifested on the inside so you could give your gifts to the outside. And I really love that about you. So with that whole lead up, my question is, where do you go when you just are like, oh my goodness, you got your, because we all do, you get in a rut and you're like, oh my goodness, I got to get myself out of this rut and I'm going to get it. I don't know. I'm going to get on the phone, or I'm going to get in the sauna, or I'm going to read a good book, or I'm just going to eat a barrel of bacon. I don't know.
Hey, it happens.
Right? It happens. It does. I tell people, don't tell me you're always 100%, because no one's always 100%. But what do you do to get your fire stoked again?
Yeah, well, naturally, wherever I go, I can fall into that space of prayer or meditation. So that's been a huge saving grace, because there's a lot of things, moving pieces in my life, but that's one thing I can heavily lean on. Second, I love yoga. So yoga is one of the things that I'm like, I just need a class, or I like to lift weights. I go pump the iron. And you don't want to watch me while I'm pumping iron, because I'm very much in the zone, competitive. If you watch my Instagram, I'm lifting heavy, because that's what helps really get a lot of my mind out of place. And it releases these amazing endorphins. And I'm so grateful that I still can feel that despite how many times I get there. But it's just an amazing feeling. And that's what I love. And then what I also enjoy is just being with my family. I love my kids and traveling with them. That resets me. We try to do that at least 3 times a year, but that's important to me. And traveling with them is definitely my reset.
I can see why my mom, my mom, Dr. Jeannie Krieger,
love her.
and she just loves you. And, and I always say it, and sometimes people think well, she's American of Mexican descent, or, she grew up in a Spanish speaking only home. She got her PhD. She struggled, by her own, accomplishments to get to where she was at. And I know it's not that. I know when my mom looks at you, she doesn't look at you as a Hispanic woman. She just looks at you as someone who just gets it and who wants to grab life and go for it. And I always get so tickled. She's like, "Oh, I talked to Ericka today." And I just wanted you to know that, she gets tickled with you because you remind her of her. Oh. And you remind her of her because she had to go through that journey too, of not being able to go to the white school, of not being able to be accepted in the community where, she was something less than. She's not being accepted to make the salary that men make, not being able to, everything that was in her life was that she wasn't supposed to do it, or she wasn't able to do it, or, it wasn't right for her to do it because she was taken from someone else, but my mom said, no, I'm here to live my journey. And she pursued that. And I think that that's what she loves about you is you live life that same way. You live life for you. You live life for her kids, just like my mom lived for me. And I just wanted to share that with you because, we're all going into New York City and we're going to be celebrating there. And I just can't wait to see the gift of the hug that you and my mom give each other, because I think that's just going to be a gift that everyone is going to get to see.
Oh, yes. I cannot wait. She's definitely one of my highlights of the trip.
So I'm going to go ahead and take a little break, and then we'll have John come back in. I'm going to play a little bit. But, I'm so excited of getting to meet you as well. And let's just say this, Ericka, you're a delight to have on the show. And like I said, let's go to New York City and Washington, D.C. and let's just paint them forever different. How's that sound?
Yes. I'm for it.
We will absolutely do that. Thank you. Boom. Sorry, I just cut you off right there at the end. I'm so sorry. It's just like, oh my goodness, I need some water. Oh my gosh. So I just played the bump video for the first time, earlier in the show, and that was my second time. And I just get such a kick out of it because it really does show what community is. And in what I love about this community is it's not based upon demographics. It's based upon, psychographics. And psychographics, and like what you would say, Ericka, psychographics are all we have on the inside, and then it doesn't matter what you look like or where you've been or all that crazy stuff on the outside. And when I play that, I mean, I always think of myself being at the United Nations because we it just is like we have all these different people, old and young and brown and white and black and all these, and I love that because it just always reminds me at the end of the day, a person isn't the suit, and you said it, a person is the soul. And I think so much of the time we just forget that. But what I wanted to do now is just, John is great. Just some reflection on some of our conversation that Eric and I had, John. What are some of your thoughts?
I ran out of paper. I was taking so many notes. I'm just saying. I mean, you guys, there was some true gold here in all of this discussion, and I want to. There's a couple of things I wanted to point out. In particular, you talked about, Ericka. You talked about, creativity. You both did actually talked about creativity, and that really is such an important key piece.
It's that New York thing
to everything. What's that?
Yes.
What's the New York thing?
Well, you went out just at the time that you were given your pop rock there, so you'll have to give your pop rock again.
Creativity.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's all about the creativity is such an important piece of our life, and we all need to be able to feel like we're creating something.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is art, whether it is a project at work, or even if it's children, whatever it is, we're here to create.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really kind of feeds our soul, is that ability to feel like we are creating something and making a difference. And there's so many things, as you talked about, your mind is a combination of all these other thoughts and all that. And that is, we have to remember to stop listening to those voices in our head, because they're not ours. They're what other people told us about ourselves. They're what other people said we can't do. And so, we need to start believing in ourselves and our own creativity, and to express ourselves through those things. So I just wanted to point out just those couple of things, and there'll be more as we continue the conversation, I'm sure.
Well, and definitely I'm going to go in there too, John, and so, but part of that was, Ericka also, took the power of choice. And so, there was thoughts that she got rid of, but, with her grandfather, her Tata, she was able to embrace some, other thoughts that she kept, playing. And I always love this because they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. But I also say the definition of habits is the same thing. That's doing the same, thing over and over again, but it has a positive outcome. And I think that we always have to be very cognizant of our choices, because our choices are our power, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. In my first book that I published, I talk about conscious choices. And I think it's important to explore how you even go about making conscious choices and understanding the consequences, and creating the space of reflecting on how can these consequences unfold for not just me, but the people that are part of that same story. Mm-hmm. And so when we can really reflect on that, we can approach those choices a little different. But there's always more than one choice.
Oh, yes.
Part of the equation, so let your mind expand and see and then if it feels like it feels like there's only one or two, then maybe you need a little more time. Maybe you need opportunities to serve. Maybe you just need a little more time for those people to trickle in and provide you the inspiration that you've been awaiting.
Mm. I would agree.
I love how you point out, if I can add to that just a little bit, just to say, I love how you pointed out that we have those choices, right? We choose what voices we listen to. We choose what voices we believe. We choose what behaviors we want to emulate and the kind of person that we want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and John, you've said some pretty powerful things, and I just wanted to allow Ericka maybe to just maybe comment on a few things, knowledge based or just feeling based that you had provided. So, Ericka, any comments that you wanted for John?
Absolutely. Like, first of all, both of you, thank you for your service to our country and to people. And your service doesn't ever stop. It continues to move in the community. And John, for you to really take a pause and recognize that we all have this spark within us, and people just need a little bit of motivation just to help that ignite within them. I love the name of your company. I love that you are sharing that knowledge and that passion for people to share their fire. So thank you for that. Because the more I feel like we can activate and lead from that source of us, there's amazing things that will happen. And then the generations that we will inspire that have yet to, grow. It's just a beautiful legacy that you both are creating. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're kicking butt out there, Ericka, with, return to yourself, and that's something that, and you brought it out in your discussion too. And Robert has said this as well. We're so busy trying sometimes to serve others and to do for others that we forget about our own selves. And I've created a new acronym by the way, when we say the word too busy is an acronym for basically underserving yourself.
Ooh, I think I need a t-shirt with that.
Yeah. I'm getting some made, so
yeah.
It's on.
Yeah, we'll go out to New York and wear the t-shirts, and we'll be the busyites.
Busy.
Move over, Rockets, the busyites.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because it made me think of something else. I don't want to actually shortchange the book, The Art of Connection. And one of the things that I think that a lot of people don't see in the book, The Art of Connection, and maybe John does, because he's been in it for, I think, 4 out of the 5 books. Wow. Yeah, is the art of connection. When a lot of people think of it, they always think about the art of connection, of connecting out. But if you actually read the pages of the book, the art of connection really is about reaching in. And that's what's so fascinating about it, because, so many people on the outside, if they never pick up the, because it's not about the pages in the book. It's about the people who wrote those pages in the book. See, that's where the power comes in. And when you really actually take the time to go looking through those pages, you really get to see that connection started from the inside. And it's what helped them develop the outside. And that's the crazy thing about the art of connection. The art of connection isn't about doing better business. The art of connection is about doing a better self.
I love that.
Perfect.
So in the next book that we have coming out is going to be 365 days of resilience quotes. And I'm oh my gosh, I'm like just itching, but it's like, after New York, we'll start to like, bringing the word about 365, days of resilience out into the marketplace. But again, we want to make sure that we gift the proper amount of time to 365 days of abundance, because that too in itself is a very powerful space if you know how to really, hold it. And that's something I've really learned, in myself the last couple of years is really learning how to hold space. And I think holding space is such a powerful, powerful tool if used appropriately. And I kind of wanted to, get a check-in with you, Ericka, and you, John, about, your thoughts on holding space.
It's a sacred practice. And I feel like it's definitely a beautiful thing for us to practice individually. But also when we can access that within ourselves, we have more compassion to hold space for those that we come across, right?
Word, Ericka.
Your book, even the title, The Art of Connection, like, doesn't that just make you want to exhale? And just soften into that space, like, wow. And then you read through each of these pages where there was somebody who was so excited to share that message. You get a little glimpse in their world. And I feel like that's the gift of creating the art of connection, to sit. I mean, it invites you to sit in that sacred space, to just be and receive that glimpse of that individual.
You know, thank you so much for saying that, because it really puts into perspective something else that happened yesterday. And the reason why I brought up the space, and John and I, we've talked about this through the last book. It's just one page. So what's just one page? You get one page out of all these other pages, you know, how is that going to affect anything or anyone or even myself? And then all of a sudden I sit in that room and I hear how powerful that one page is. That one page is a starting point, not a stopping point. That one page is not a bump in the road. It's a place where they start to build the road. And that's what I heard yesterday, time and time again. You know what? I never thought I would be an author. I never thought I would be a bestseller. I never thought I'd be on stage. I never thought I would start my business. I never thought I'd have my own podcast or radio show. I never thought, I never. And then all of a sudden they do one thing. And then all of a sudden their never becomes never, because now they're on the journey of their forever. And that's what I love about this book so much, is because, you know, for those who minimize that one page, you know, what they're really doing is they're not creating the space to start a whole new journey that could benefit them a whole new lifetime. And that's what I heard time and time again when people were sharing from that stage yesterday.
I'm going to say something because you just inspired me. My tata, in that quote that I shared, goes along with resilience. So I'm going to buy 2 pages next year for the art of resilience. And we're going to put his quote in there. He's going to be 95 next year. So how beautiful would it be for him to have his own little page?
That is amazing. And Patricia Anderson, she was at the event yesterday and she put into the comment, she goes, it's about the people. And she goes, what an incredible network of heart, wisdom, and support. I love that. And
I love it.
And I love you guys. You
Robert,
guys are really great. So,
Robert,
I don't know how it happens, but an hour goes by just like that. So I just want to let everyone know that I'm here with Ericka Avila Brian and John, Mr. Share Your Fire, Verrico. I want to say thank you so much, you guys, for being on the show today. And like at many shows at the end, I always say, just like Doritos, we'll always make more. So that we will share the fire and have you both come back to a time really soon.
Thank you so much, Robert. And may I add one thing to your never statement? And the only thing we should never do is never limit ourselves by speaking in absolutes.
I will take that. Won't you, Ericka? I'll take that.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What fun. It was so great to speak with John Verrico and Ericka Avila Brian. John will share your fire, and Ericka, return to yourself. And do we need to do it? Absolutely. Because when we turn to ourselves, we turn to our own source, and our own source helps us open up the universe that's around us. My name is Robert Jones. I'm the owner and founder of the iNetrepreneur Network and the thought leader behind the community and the book, the series, The Art of Connection. I'm so glad you're here. Please come see us. We come here each and every week, 2:30 Arizona time. And we're in the crazy state where right now we're in California time. So, please adjust those clocks and come visit us, ask questions, and be a part. Don't be apart from. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great, wonderful week and afternoon.
You've been watching the iNetrepreneur Show, a production of the iNetrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.